So, today is a good day for many reasons, but chiefly among them, Elon Musk owning the libtard. The first being this one, 8 hours ago. 20 million views in 8 hours, not bad, right? Showing that UCLA, a premier medical school, has dramatically lowered its admission standards for minority applicants, just completely not only engaging in racism, but also making doctors worse in order to appease racism. The left is clearly on a higher mental plane than the rest of us. They just are functioning too sophisticatedly to comprehend. But what you clearly need during a brain surgery is to make sure that your surgeon is Filipino. Because remember, when you die on the operating table, there's not going to be an investigation. You were just a statistic to be counted in the column of the tolerance brigade. Sacrifice everything on the altar of inclusivity. So this tweet has a lot of views, but it's not even the reason I'm making this video. The reason I'm making this video is this right here. So this video is being propagated in the mainstream media in a very interesting way because they are representing this video, or I'm talking about MSNBC, CNN, etc. They're showing this video in terms of, look, Ted Cruz is being such a bigot. And you're going to see how absurd that is once I show you that when I play you this video. And the reason they're calling him a bigot is because he's suggesting that there's a difference between men and women. But the rest of the world, the sane population, we get to see publicly the fruits, if you will, of the left-wing ideology. And that's what I'm going to show you here. Ted is interviewing a judge right now. No, he's asking her questions. It's not quite an interview. He's interrogating her. He's interrogating this judge, which is clearly possessed by the woke mind virus, a.k.a. Marxism.
The rights of individuals are your political ideology.
I apply the law to the facts.
I asked a question, which matters more?
You can just look at her face and tell that she is a feminist, that she is on the left. She clearly thinks men and women are the same. I mean, she raises her kids to be, you know, she makes her son wear dresses. That's all I'm going to say. She makes her young children, if they're girls, she makes them wear baggy cargo shorts. If they're boys, dresses. And this is all in the name of tolerance. Likely she helps organize drag shows at middle schools, which we see going viral constantly. I love how X allows these things to go viral so that the mainstream media and the left can't gaslight us into saying, oh, what do you mean? That's not happening. You're making that up. Meanwhile, we can literally see drag queens at preschools with 50 million views. It's just so fantastic. Thank you, Elon Musk. Anyway, back to the video.
Well, my political ideology doesn't matter at all.
Okay, so I don't believe you. And I think this case demonstrates...
So, masculine man in position of authority and competence says, I don't believe you. Just look at her facial expressions when that happened.
Okay, so I don't believe you. And I think this
you can see it there.
Case demonstrates that you are willing to subjugate the rights of individuals to satisfy your political ideology. This case involves a male defendant who raped a 9-year-old boy. Was he guilty of that?
Yes, the petitioner pled guilty to that.
Okay, so he raped...
That's a terrible way of answering. Not... yes, he was guilty of that, but he pled guilty? No, he was guilty of that. But the left can't acknowledge objective parameters. In fact, the reason she entered the sphere of law is to erode the notion of objective parameters because she can't accept that men and women are different, as you're about to see here. But the correct answer is yes, he was guilty. But they can't do that because the objective notion of guilty implies an objective morality. And remember, Marxism, when it's conjoined with postmodernism, is morally relativistic, meaning that they don't acknowledge better and worse, right and wrong.
Raped a 9-year-old boy. He also raped a 17-year-old girl. Was he guilty of that?
He pled guilty. The petitioner pled guilty of that crime as well.
Look how difficult it is for her to cope with objective frameworks.
So was he guilty?
See, he asked her again, like, was he guilty?
I hope so, because she pled guilty to it.
He was a he when he did this.
Whoa, she just, okay, yeah. So you notice that she's referring to the rapist as the incorrect pronoun in order to be inclusive to them. So she's not concerned about the victim. She's concerned about the pronouns that she's using in order to virtue signal saying that she's a good person.
That's correct.
1 year after being released again, he was convicted of having child pornography. Is that correct?
I'm unclear on exactly the time
whenever you force them to engage in objective moral parameters, it just frazzles their brain.
frame that you're at, but the petitioner was convicted of distributing child pornography.
Child pornography that was images of adults violently raping children.
Abhorrent conduct.
Okay.
For which there are real victims.
And this individual, 6'2".
It's disturbing how we have to, like, acknowledge the fact that that was good she said that. It's like, okay, yeah, she acknowledged that that behavior was bad. no, we shouldn't have to be grateful and relieved that, a leftist, oh, thank goodness this leftist agreed that that's not good.
Biologically a man. A minute ago, you said that when this man decided that he was a she, you said this individual was, quote, I wrote it down, sober and entirely a female. That phrase struck me as remarkable. Did this individual have male genitalia?
So easy. All you do is apply objective parameters to the freak shows, and they can't handle it.
Think what I said, or at least what
They find it to be synonymous with oppression. Objective parameters, meaning the objective aspects of reality, right and wrong, truth and falsehood, is considered oppression.
It's a verbatim quote, entirely a female.
Sorry, what I meant is I think what I said, or at least what
That is a verbatim quote, entirely a female.
Sorry, what I meant to say was hormonally a female.
Okay, but that's not entirely. Did this individual have male genitalia?
Yes.
So you took a 6'2".
See, if X didn't exist, you wouldn't see this video. In fact, the only reason they're showing it on mainstream media is in a response to it being shown on X. They have to give a rebuttal, a psychological operation rebuttal to, oh my gosh, we're not going to engage with the fact that we were just humiliated that this judge is deranged and insane, that her brain's broken. Instead, we're going to say Ted Cruz is a bad person.
Serial child with male genitalia. And he said, I'd like to be in a women's prison. And your answer was, that sounds great.
Remember when this happened? This happened a while back, and now she's finally answering for it. Finally.
To me, let me ask you something. The other women in that prison, do they have any rights?
Is that a question you're asking me?
Yes, the other women in that prison, do they have any?
Look at her face. This is incompetence. This is just complete and utter incompetence. The definition of a diversity hire.
Rights.
Of course.
Do they have the right not to have a 6'2" man who is a repeat serial put in as their cellmate?
Senator Cruz, I considered the facts presented to me, and I reached a decision.
Yeah, and we understand that the reason why you're here is because you actually can't look at the facts. That's literally the reason you're sitting here. But she doesn't acknowledge that she even monumentally failed. This is where you see manifested the total arrogance and narcissism of the radical left.
I asked you a question. I asked you a question. Do they have a right not to have a 6'2" man who is a serial put in as their cellmate? Do those women have a right to that?
Every person who's incarcerated has the right to be safe in their space.
But you didn't think so.
That's not a response to what he said, because the response to what he said would be no. You don't think that they have that right.
So you didn't think so. And in fact, I'm going to give some quotes from your order, because Senator Kennedy is right. This is not a judge's order.
Okay, so this is where it's going to get really, really dystopian, and you see where the radical left preys on the female psyche that is also low in verbal IQ. Because what you see here is almost, to any sane society or a sane intellect, a deliberate attack on coherence itself, a deliberate attack that is driven from something like pure spite and resentment against objective truth. And it's starkly feminine in its desperate emotionality.
This is a political activist. By the way, the beginning of your order says, at birth, people are typically assigned a gender.
That's the opening sentence of her contending with the information of a serial child rapist. Should they or should they not be put in a prison block with women?
I'm going to say that would astonish a lot of Americans. A lot of Americans think you go to the hospital, a baby is born, and congratulations, you have a little boy.
Right. It's a raffle, coin flip, we don't know.
A little girl. The assigned a gender, I know you went to Brown, but it sounds like it's in a college faculty lounge with no bearing on reality. The Bureau of Prison argued. What I'm saying...
We're winning, guys. We are winning.
Right now, that if you put this person in a female prison, there will be a risk of sexual assault to the women.
They're answering for their intellectual deviance, their total and utter degeneracy.
You did? You said you didn't care about the women. Have you dealt... In what universe is someone who is a serial repeat child not at a risk of reoffending?
Senator, as I do in every case.
I know you've been told to repeat the line, I follow the law. I asked a question. In what universe is someone who is a serial repeat child not at risk of reoffending?
Sir, I looked at the facts that were before.
Right, and in her mind, she actually did. But this is where you see the danger of having radical leftist women in positions of power, because they will deliberately do and say the opposite of the truth in order to serve the left-wing ideology. You're seeing proof of it here. He just asked a question that, it has only one answer. And yet she did the opposite because she had to be tolerant, because she had to serve the left-wing ideology.
For me in this case.
This to people who care about reality is the intolerable part. It's just, this is unacceptable. This is the definition of unacceptable. This is total and utter mind rot. This is a deliberate attack on civilization itself.
All of the evidence, including the statements of every warden who had supervised this petitioner.
Except that you didn't, because you made the wrong decision. So you failed. You made the wrong choice.
To say, if I were the father of one of those women, and you decided that my daughter's cellmate was going to be a 6'2" man who over and over and over again committed violent sexual assault, I would say the entire justice system is absurd, and it is clear on your record your political ideology matters a heck of a lot more than the rights of those women that you endangered. I think you're a radical, and I think you have no business being a judge.
But she's worse than a radical. She's utterly incompetent. And her brain has been ravaged and reconstructed in the image of serving anti-truth. So it's much worse than that. But really keep in mind that they don't want you to be able to see this. The fact that you can see this, and you're only seeing this on X, is as a result of the entire leftist regime censoring free speech and saying you as an individual don't deserve to hear the depravity of the left and make up your own mind.